Hey, Criminals! So welcome back to Favorite Friday. And for the first case for this week, we are going back to Massachusetts. For this case, we have a mother-daughter duo. And so I highly doubt any of you have actually heard this case before because I literally only heard of the case because of our first source. So if some of you have heard of the case, if you know anybody that was involved in the case personally, definitely let me know. And so with that being said, I'm quitting rambling and let's go get started. So Christina Martin was born on Halloween Day, 1949. She would get married, doesn't specify that husband's name, but she has two kids together. She has two kids with this particular husband, and their names are Tessa and Paul. So I assume Christina and this particular husband would eventually split from each other, and then she winds up meeting a man by the name of Richard Alfredo. And so essentially, he was born August 3rd, 1928. He actually had gotten married to a woman by the name of Dorothy in 1949, and they would wind up having a daughter together named Elizabeth. So then at some point, it doesn't specify when, but Richard and Christina would eventually start dating. And then while they're dating, apparently both of Richard's parents actually die, and he proceeds to need triple bypass surgery. So, of course, while he's recovering, Christina would apparently bring him in 30 doses of LSD in Jello. And on January 21st, 1990, apparently he has a reaction. He, of course, is sent to the hospital. He winds up dying at said hospital, but his official cause of death is ruled as heart disease. So his assets would wind up being left behind to his wife and his kids. So I assume Dorothy, because it never said that him and Dorothy ever legally divorced. And so rumors were actually apparently starting around town that Richard actually died from poisoning. And this had apparently started because Christina's daughter, Tessa, who apparently was 14 at the time, she apparently was telling her friends that Richard apparently made a move on her, and she apparently told Christina, so she kills Richard out of revenge for basically trying to come on to my underage daughter. So then Christina, of course, I guess she was asked by the police eventually, and she, of course, denies the whole poisoning, LSD, any of that. But then, of course, her and her daughter went up actually fleeing to Mexico. They did get Richard's body, test his body. His body is tested positive for the drug that you see on screen here. It's basically over-the-counter drug and LSD. They are then extradited back to the States. Christina is charged with first-degree murder, and Tessa apparently is never charged. So I don't know whether she testified against her mother, or maybe she was too young in the state of Massachusetts to legally get charged with murder because she is 14, but his daughter somehow never gets charged. So then Christina, of course, is sentenced to life for the death of Richard. However, apparently 7 years later, apparently there was a man who basically would come forward and ask the district attorney to look at the official cause of death that was listed for Richard after the whole poisoning claims came out. His new cause of death was listed as LSD intoxication, and apparently LSD, even though you would think so, apparently is not fatal. And so remember, apparently for the new test, they had to check his organs. The organs were embalmed. So, of course, the results from that are not going to be accurate because the embalming fluid is also going to mess up the results. And then not only that, apparently the test that you're supposed to use for LSD, you're supposed to test fresh urine. And obviously Richard's been dead for a while, so they had to use tissue. And that obviously would mess up the results as well. So in exchange for basically time served and 10 years probation, she basically pleads guilty to manslaughter. Now that all this evidence has come out that, maybe you didn't directly kill Richard, but you still technically were involved somehow. And so she obviously pleads guilty to that. And so she winds up getting released, but she winds up dying in February of 2004 at the age of 53. So that being said, like I said, that is a case where a murder case that involves Jello and LSD. So like I said, if you were aware of the case, definitely let me know. If it's your first time hearing the case, definitely let me know. If there's any other cases that involved Jello, I guess definitely let me know. So that being said, I cover fatal females 3 times a week. This is Scott from Fatal Females. I'll see you guys next one. Bye.
You get